everybody, welcome to What the Flick Billions Season 2. Starting off with Crisis Management. Michelle Boley is back. Ben Mankiewicz, Alonso, Duralde. Wow. So, like, do we think we're setting up this season to be the hunter is now the hunted and vice versa?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, they had to come up with some storyline to get them back antagonistic toward each other. And I don't know whether, it's realistic that you could sue a U.S. attorney with 147 people. I certainly don't think, even though that he gave Remus, that guy, his lawyer will always be Remus, gave him the marching orders to do it that night. But I'm pretty sure, because he had by the next Thursday he was having, or Friday, he was supposed to have come over Friday and see the guy from Northern Exposure.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So I mean, his lawyer got 147 people to sign on to a lawsuit in about 36 hours.
Yeah, that was a little surprising.
But it's a good idea. Like, from a storytelling point of view, the idea of a class action lawsuit against a U.S. attorney. And you knew when he was getting the lesson from the two cops about show of force togetherness, you're like, how is he going to use this?
One of the best process serving scenes I think I've ever seen.
Great process serving scenes, yeah. So that was I thought really good, and you got to get them back antagonistic, and you run a risk, are we just going to put Maggie Siff back at work for Axelrod? Her role has to be different than, I think, just being sort of pulled and trying to toe the line.
Well, everybody wants Wendy now. Like, she's getting the job offer from the co-creator of Empire, Danny Strong, whatever his character's name is here, to go work for, they said, I forgot. You know who I'm talking about.
Right, that other.
Anyway.
But I thought the scene with her and Axe was telling that she's coming back to Axe, because she says, you got to respect me, right? Don't, you may not like it, but at least you respect my decision. We have a great chemistry, but I've turned it off. And then he goes, okay, and he walks out. And then she says, don't send flowers, the kid's allergic, right? And that's a way of saying, you can still court.
Right.
Right, which to me is, I'm
not saying no.
I'm not saying no, right.
But now that this $5 million thing is on the table, and she's still only separated with her husband, how does that complicate things if she goes that route?
That has to be resolved by them, because it does look terrible.
Totally, yeah.
It looks like they got a $5 million. I mean, again, it could be explained away, because we know there are other reasons why the case got dropped.
But it looks like Bob McDonough.
Right, but also sure, the governor of Virginia.
Yeah,
right? So
with the wife.
But also if you believe that the inspector general, or whatever that guy is, the internal inspector, if you believe that his job is not so much to get at the truth, but to be like, I know this guy's bad and I'm going to get him, then it doesn't matter what the truth is. That looks bad enough and you'll get him with it.
It is literally on paper.
That monologue he does, like aimed right at the camera, that's like attacking. They hadn't done that before. They hadn't had people talk right into the camera.
And that inspector did it.
Yeah, it was very
also,
like.
Well, also I thought it was the Deck, whatever his name is, that guy. But also, it's interesting that they haven't done that, and that sort of seems to me an old move, right? Like that guy looks like he worked for J. Edgar Hoover, right? I mean, they gave him the glasses, they gave him the slick back hair. He looks like a Hoover G-man, which is again not accidental. I also was, like when they're on your side and when they're seeking justice and exposing corruption inside a government or in a lawyer investigating the mafia, you admire the prosecutorial weapons that the federal government has. But that guy gave you a reminder of, their conviction rate is like 97% and everybody else pleads. Like the power of the federal prosecutor is gigantic and awesome and so easy to abuse. And I get it. It makes us all hypocrites, because when they're investigating people we want them to investigate, we're like, God bless the FBI. But we know they can destroy lives just by sweeping you up in their investigation, because they can look anywhere. As he said, like an octopus. This is closed down. We go off in this arm. I'll go off in this arm. And again, we know the truth about this $5 million payment. It was not a payoff in any way to stop the Axelrod investigation. He won't care. Even if that were explained to him, he'd think, No, this is how I get Chuck Rhodes, and I'm gonna use it to get
well,
Chuck.
and
It's
also-
about winning.
Right, that's right.
And also, even if it were a payoff, of course they're going to say that it wasn't. So I mean,
Totally.
that's a really hard thing to prove, let's talk about it elsewhere at Axe Capital, because there's so much going on that side as well.
Oh, yeah.
Is Stephanie a new character, his chief of staff?
I didn't remember her being there
totally. Yeah,
before.
She's brand new.
She's new, though.
She's for security.
Yes.
And she's there with and
Wags.
she's already right. She was there with the other great scene with Wags because she's already on Rich Tinder.
Yes, right.
Was Wags already on all those drugs, or was that a new development?
I think that's a new development.
Or at least they hadn't told us.
It's weird because like last night's Girls was called a hostage situation, and there's a hostage situation on Homeland, and then Wags is snorting oxy, which Desi is also doing. So all
On
these
Girls,
shows,
yeah, right.
all of our shows are running together this
I
week.
think
I
when
definitely connect those two characters. I mean, so
Wags
similar.
and
I'm trying to
Desi,
think
yeah.
if when Wags had the session with Wendy, right? When Wags had his session and he described really ugly, dangerous sexual practices, right? I mean, as I recall, the participants were willing, but it was still demeaning and it told you something about him that he may have mentioned
A drug
drugs
problem
then,
as well.
Totally. Yeah, God, you have a great memory. That was so
It was
long
such
ago.
an awful,
That was like the second
but it was a
episode,
very difficult. You were like, oh, this guy's the worst guy. And I liked it because it made her. She has to be. All she cares about is the performance.
Right.
Right. So hey, if snorting oxy and getting hookers and then urinating on them, if that makes you perform,
A better broker.
right? Then I have to be like, okay, great,
Go for it.
You found a way that makes it work.
That's just great, Wags. I'm so happy to hear.
I
that.
am really fascinated by the trans character.
Oh, yeah, right?
They seem fascinating.
Yeah.
I saw from the clips from next week. They, them, theirs is the pronouns.
Yep.
They seem fascinating. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Taylor.
Okay, funny.
Name's-
Like
such a-
Michelle Southern.
I like it when they can deliver a line that you know is coming and it's still funny. Like,
Of course, I'm vegan.
of course I'm vegan. Like, of course you're gonna, it's definitely going to turn out to be vegan, and but still, there's going to be we're going to have to wait for it, and it's still paid off. Yeah.
Mrs. Axelrod, as Mrs. Axelrod as ever. I'm forgetting her first name, but the whole thing with the school nurse and the like.
School nurse and
Oh, yeah.
her
Bye.
other brother. We know that you're the toughest. We know
You're the strong one of the family.
No,
but-
she didn't say. She said, "We know you're the toughest guy in the family," and she hits guy,
Right.
but you're not.
You're not going to
You're
cross
not.
me.
You're not me. And he's like, all right, under protest. I'll go barbecue. Like, I got that point. Nobody in the family disputes your toughness.
I do have to say, though, that nurse, like the fact that she was letting that kid just lay there on the ground. I mean,
Yeah, that
it's
does
probably
seem a
kind
little-
of a good thing that she
Yeah,
stepped in.
that seemed a contrived TV moment.
A little bit,
Yeah.
but I could also see where I'm not getting sued over this. I don't know. It's
Something
it,
that
it seems like an up the down staircase
Then the
moment.
line needed to be better than then you got to, if you're using it, you got to sign something that you're not going to sue, and she says something like, "I'm not signing anything. I'm saving the kid."
Right.
Like
Yeah,
some
that's
some
true.
moment like that. Other than she was like, "Oh, you hysterical moms who don't want the kids to die at school." It seemed.
Totally. No, that's, my moment of that was this with the lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, who cuts out the lights when they're still there?
Right.
You're still there. I get that it,
You
I
have
get
to
that
get
it
to the parking
represents
lot.
power.
I didn't.
get
I
it.
didn't. I didn't like it either
Yeah.
because also it was like he was waving it around.
Yeah.
Um,
There was a person in each lane area just waiting for him.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Chuck is now a karate guy.
Right.
And
That was so dirty.
Well, it was.
was,
I mean,
yeah,
it's interesting
right.
because you'll recall this show started with him
Yeah.
on the floor being
Yeah,
dominated
totally,
by
of
his
course.
wife.
Yeah.
We later find out it's his wife.
No, he likes to lose.
And now he's on the mat, but from somebody else.
But I just like.
I just kept thinking about what it meant to him versus that guy who has no idea what he's entered into in this situation.
Right, but it is. I mean, so he can't get that right. So he's seeking something, being dominated, being made to feel weak,
Right.
and out of control, ceding control to someone else in this because he won't give it up for a second
True.
in his life. And
But at the same time, I think he did that whole thing is about learning what to do when you are seemingly crushed, which is what this season is going
Right,
to be.
that's right.
Like fighting back against apparently insurmountable odds and all this stuff that Axe is going to throw at him. How does he come back from that? And that's what's going to happen, I
Was
think.
the chess? Chess? Does he play chess
Yes.
The chess thing was great. Yes.
Not the next one.
Because apparently
Episode two is on
you saw it
demand and we didn't
online,
know.
right?
Or
On
Oh
demand.
no, I saw it on Showtime Anytime. Or
Okay, on their app.
On their app.
I bet that they didn't want to burn a new episode opposite the Oscars, so they probably just went ahead and so anyway, Ben and I haven't seen it yet. We'll talk about it next week or later this
But that
week
new
or something.
philosophy, what a cool scene with him talking about his new approach. And
Yeah, rather than busting him, letting them know that he's watching. Like that's a
Right, and that's so that we're getting two new approaches. So Axis was marshal the forces, and was a U.S. military strategy. It has been at times overwhelming force, shock
Right.
and awe. Right, that's what he's and Chuck's is very different. But you saw Chuck's. He's such a good manipulator. I mean, just when he goes and talks to his three people, who it's interesting. They're all like together, except only one of them can get the head of the criminal division job.
Right.
But he's still sensing like, hey, you guys want a 33% chance? And he says, you know how to handle yourselves. Tell the truth, but those are very different. Tell the version of the truth where I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
That's the version of the truth, and then you'll be considered for head of criminal. But I liked that scene very much. And then Brian, she was like, "Do you see what he did there?" Again, because it was a nice way. It was a great way to tell the viewer what happened, because we could have missed it easily, and then have the characters react to that because he says, "You see what he did there," and then explains it, and Brian's like, "Yeah, we saw what he did." You know?
But no, it was a nice bone for the audience. It's funny because I was watching this with a friend of mine last night who'd never seen the show before, and there's that whole scene. I think it was the one with the new intern where they like rattle off all these number things, and he's like, "What's going on?" I said, "I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You just gotta let that wash over you. That's not what's important."
Like he was like, you just what did he say? What was the 10 million? Their phrase for 10 million? It was so good. He's like, you saved me 15 Q on the Xerxes meter on the thing, and that was even before the 10 something. I want to go because it was obviously I'm sure it's correct.
Yeah.
I'm sure they got a consultant and that's what it is.
Right.
But yeah, you don't need to know it. You just need to know that's how these assholes talk.
Exactly.
For sure.
All right, so exciting new season. Again, episode 2 is out there, and Ben and I didn't know. Michelle's caught up, so we will recap that one at some point, and then the rest of the season. So come join us again.